Last week, we spoke with incumbent Mayor Chris Hoffman about her goals and priorities as she seeks a second term as the leader of Jacksonville Beach. And today, I'm joined by her opponent, Georgette Dumont. Good morning, Georgette.
Good morning, Ann. Thank you for having me.
It's nice to have you. What do you most love about Jacksonville Beach? And
I
what
l
do you wish people kind of understood more about it?
What I love about Jack's Beach, my husband and I moved here in 2010. We just love the laid back, beachy eclecticness of the beach. There were higher end places, places where you could go in your shorts and your flip flops. And I'm seeing that we're kind of losing that over time. In downtown, we're getting a lot more high end places, which is great. But that's what we're getting is the high end places. We need more eclectic businesses within the community to match the residents and the eclecticness of all our different neighborhoods.
Are people getting priced out of Jacksonville
Oh,
Beach?
definitely. If my husband and I got our jobs at UNF today, we would not be living at the beach. We wouldn't be able to afford it.
Wow. Okay. So, is there a single issue? I mean, you were on the city council from 2018 to 2022. You also served for 6 years on the planning
hmm
commission. Was there a single issue that kind of got you involved in beach politics in the first place?
Overdevelopment. So when we moved here in 2010, we chose Jacksonville Beach specifically because we liked the culture of the beach. And over time, we started to see that homes are getting knocked down and big homes are getting put in. And so on the planning commission, I saw a lot of the issues that people were having, especially our residents. So residents were having more of an issue trying to redo their own homes without knocking it down than somebody who would just come in and knock down a home and build a three-story house.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, and that's something that we really need to work on. How do we make government work for the residents instead of against the residents?
Were there lessons learned? I mean, working on a planning commission, you really get to see a lot of what's coming, the growth, and how it's impacting the city. But it seems like very often there's not a lot of tools to say no or to, push back or modify. There's a lot of emphasis on property rights in this state.
Yes, there are. That's Burt Harris Act. And so we need to be very cautious about when we deny. You need competent and substantial evidence for anybody who's opposing one of the applications.
And the Bird Harris Act basically says that a developer has the right to develop to the highest and best use their property. And very often that means kind of the most intensive and lucrative use.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the city can't take away value from a property. So right now we're redoing a land development code, which says what you can do where in the city. And we have to make sure that we are not taking away the value of anyone's property. But there are ways that we can incentivize residents who live there to be able to do what they want on their property without having to not put up those barriers. So if you want to renovate your property and it's going to be more than 50% of the value, you have to come into compliance, you have to come into code, and that's very problematic for a lot of residents. And so we should be incentivizing them to redo their homes as they're standing instead of knocking them down and building those three-story structures.
So you're challenging Chris Hoffman, the current mayor. Why are you just more wanting to be mayor, or are you dissatisfied with her performance?
I've watched her. She's been on council for 12 years, on city council and 4 as mayor. And I've watched her. I've been going to all the city council meetings since 2010. So I've seen her work, and I'm doing this not for me. I'm doing this because I have been unhappy with what I've seen, especially in the last 2 years. The residents have come before council at times in large groups, pleading and begging them, please do not pass this, like whatever, whichever one. One was the height limit, another one was a townhouse development south of a park. And they could have voted it down with regard to the townhouses. I'm not going to get into the weeds, but they could have tabled it until the code was fixed, and they didn't. And what was worse is how they interacted and spoke with the residents. And you show people respect. I don't care if you are the president or if you're the janitor. You show everyone equal respect, and I didn't feel that the council was showing them respect in both the tone and what was said, as well in just kind of ignoring what the people in the room were there for. The My goal is as so I did listen to my opponent last week, and I know that she's has had a lot of leadership positions, but leadership isn't a position. Leadership is what you do in any position that you have. So I was on the city council, and during that time we reviewed the charter, and I knew that two items were going to be coming up because of the charter review. the two big ones. The first one was going to be the height limit, revisiting the height limit, and the second one was going to be revisiting the number of bar licenses. These aren't restaurants, it's just bars. And I was in the super minority on council. I knew that I would be one of two, possibly three no votes on any of these issues, so I chose not to run again. I stepped off council and I started the political committee Protect the Beach Life. That was one when during the while I was on council, we did the we redid the city's vision and mission, and the vision of the city is to be a vibrant coastal community that embraces the beach life. So I'm like, well, we can't embrace the beach life if we lose the beach life. So the pack was called Protect the Beach Life. And I worked in concert with another volunteer organization. And I raised the money, did the artwork, got the signs out, went through the voters list, and the amendment failed 82 to 18. That is unprecedented for anything to um, go for 82%. And that was there was a unifying voice in the community, and it was people far to the left, far to the right as well, all agreeing that for different reasons that this is not right for our city. And it's time that the residents have a larger voice and are heard.
And so the issue of height limits has long been, a contentious one at the beach. That was something, the citizens obviously did not want to budge on. Um, are there other issues like that that you think that the city has not been hearing residents when it comes to what they want versus what the city's doing?
Well, part of it's overdevelopment, the number of bars, wanting more. Residents want more interaction with their city. Right now, one thing that I said is, as mayor, I will hold quarterly town halls. So this way, residents can actually come in and we can have a conversation about what some of the issues are that they're facing to try and fix the problem.
How is that different than just having a council meeting?
At a council meeting, there is a 3 minute. Any resident has 3 minutes to speak to council about a concern or an issue, but then there's no feedback from the council. So it's just 3 minutes. This is my problem, and no response.
Mm.
And that's not really a good way to get to how to solve problems.
Right.
So my background is I'm a professor at the University of North Florida. I teach public administration, so I teach how you run government. And I know that so the rest of my department is a lot of them are political scientists, and so you have a lot of politicians that are more of a show horse. I'm the workhorse. I get the job done, and that's the public administration versus the politics.
Interesting. I'm talking to Georgette Dumont. She is running for mayor of Jacksonville Beach. If you have calls or questions, you can reach us at 904-549-2937, or you can email First Coast Connect at wjct.org. One of the issues that you've raised is the issue of crime in Jacksonville Beach. And as an outsider, I feel like crime is still relatively low in Jacksonville Beach compared to other places in the city, but that may just be my perception. What is your perception?
We the crime is low compared to Jacksonville, but it's been increasing over time, and people don't feel safe out in the community. I tend not to go out at night. The and My opponent is looking at it from a policing point of view, and when I see it, and I agree, we need to make sure that the police have the resources they need to be effective. But I see it as a larger issue. It's also about the environment. And is the environment such that people feel it's okay to commit crimes in these areas? And so that is really goes back onto the city to make sure it's doing its place to keep its public spaces updated and vibrant and welcoming to a variety of people. Not so the infamous one is the lot. There is a public lot right outside at the base of the pier, and it's been gated. It has a chain link fence around it, and it has pavers in it, and it looks horrible. And it's been like that for years, and that's kind of like one of the welcoming areas. And that's not the only one. If you look around the like the mulch in the downtown, these are small things. It doesn't match. In some places you have dark, some places you have red, some places now you have the stone type stuff, and it just looks bad. So you need to kind of bring it up a notch.
Yeah, and you think that that will have, like, an impact on the through the environment on decreasing crime or
Yeah, and that goes with the broken windows theory. If you take care of the small stuff, like the broken windows and the small crimes, it helps to alleviate some of the larger ones.
there was a, issue a few years back about the fire department,
Hmm.
the fire department that existed in Jacksonville Beach was sort of subsumed and taken over by the Jacksonville Fire Rescue Department, and that was something that I believe you generally opposed at the time.
Uh, and 2 other council members, along with all the residents who spoke who weren't part of the fire department. So none of the residents who attended the meeting wanted us to contract out our fire services. It was a long and contentious meeting, and I saw that there was an issue. There was definitely an issue, but it was a management issue. It wasn't a structural issue. My main concern is that our fire department answers to the Jacksonville mayor, not to our city. And there have been some changes. So the changes with the first responders that are needed for our downtown events and things like that, and that really impacted a lot of our events in the downtown area as well, and not in a good way. So that was my main concern. Like I said, it was management issues. It wasn't a structural issue. When it got voted down, it was revisited at the same meeting, and we tried to make it so, all right, so if it's going to be this close on council, one person should not just get to decide this. Let's put it to the voters for a vote. And that was voted down as well. And again, this is
Has it
just like that record of not paying attention to what our residents are really asking for.
and in retrospect, has that been a negative for the city?
Not in terms of service. JFRD is a great fire department. I have former students, and they are who work there. They're smart as a whip. So it's in no way does it reflect JFRD. What it reflects more is the council's the council ignoring what the residents want. And so yes, you can have lower property insurance rates because of the ISO ratings and all that, but that's information that people should be given to make the decision as to whether this is better for them or not. That's the biggest piece that I think that we're lacking in our government is reaching out to residents, letting them know and understand all the different facets of some of these problems that we're facing and get their input.
Have the insurance rates gone down as a result of that?
My
I mean, for
insurance,
that particular not
I don't
overall, of
know
course.
overall. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I know my insurance rates haven't.
Yeah, nobody's insurance rate seems to be going down. I mean, speaking of that, let's talk just a little bit about resiliency and climate change because that is a priority for any mayor of any
Hmm.
beach city in Florida. So, do you have any differences between you and your opponent in terms of how you would address the threat of climate change?
No, we're pretty much on the same page with regard to resiliency.
And how do you think you're doing?
I think we're doing okay with we're already built out, and so we can't already automatically force certain things. But we're better with the protection of on the intercoastal side. That's the side that we actually have the flooding. With the flooding tends to happen on that side. When I was on council, uh, we made sure that the city was doing our part to try and alleviate some of the flooding in the sanctuary. It's one of the neighborhoods there.
That floods quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And by redirecting a lot of the stormwater into a different direction. So this way we're not overfilling their retention ponds.
Yeah, and so civility is also one of the points that you've raised. I mean, what specific strategy would you have to make things more keep them civil in those kind of conversations?
So with regard to the residents,
Mm.
there are ways that you handle large crowds that may disagree with you. And one of those would be that I know that we're all very excited but we want to get out of here sometime within the near future. So please, if you feel the need to clap and applaud, use your silent hands and make sure that we treat everyone with respect.
Yeah.
We need to actually just explicitly state that. That was not the route that my opponent would take.
All right. Well, Georgette Dumont, she's running for mayor of Jacksonville Beach. Georgette, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right.